Hello, sports fans. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you for stopping by our YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the subscribe and notifications toggle so you never miss a thing. All of our content up here every day. Looking forward to it. Thank you, and we'll see you on the radio.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, it's time!
3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Taylor's gone. Come on, touchdown, Indy! Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Thursday. Glad to have you along. Looking forward to Stephen Bardo joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio anytime when he's able to do so here in the next couple of minutes. He was on the call last night of the Michigan-Oregon game, and so a great insight into Indiana's next opponent coming up on Saturday, the Michigan Wolverines, as Dusty May comes into town well, as what will be a unique situation. And speaking of the devil, Mr. Bardo joining us now. Stephen, how are you, sir? Still getting things lined up. We'll get him connected and rolling on. Just start talking whenever you can, and I'll know you're there. But yeah, looking forward to Stephen as he was on the call last night of that game. And it's kind of odd. I was just thinking, it's weird that two of my favorite color analysts now are, there you go. Stephen, I was just thinking, it's kind of weird now that two of my favorite analysts are four guys of former teams that I probably as a fan couldn't stand, yourself and Robbie Hummel, because you guys just both do such an outstanding job. So it's hard not to like you for what you do, respect you for all of that, but having gotten to know you as a person, that makes it all even better. But it's just funny how life changes things, man. But welcome aboard. Saw you doing on the call last night up in Ann Arbor. Man, Michigan looking good. Dusty May's got him rolling.
Yeah, it's amazing what he's been able to do, Jim, in such a short amount of time. How he's put his program in place, how the guys have really bought into their role acceptance, and they're playing for one another. They're a fun team to watch, and boy, is Danny Wolf talented. My goodness.
Dude he's a problem is what he is.
Yes, he is.
He is a problem. He's 7 foot. He can stand out and knock down. He looked so good shooting that 3 last night. He had a step back one time. You recall, you mentioned it, I think, but oh my God. Oh, then he had this ball handling. I'm like, wait, what? This is nuts. Down over the weekend, I was at Montverde and I saw AJ DeBansa from Utah Prep, who is the top recruit in the country. This dude is nuts. He's 6'9", handles the ball like he's 6'3". He doesn't have that 3-point shot yet, but when he gets that, he's going to be a freak because he's got everything else. He can rebound. He's intense. He can do everything else. But oh my, if he gets that, he's going to be something. But yeah, watching Wolf last night, I'm like, this dude can handle the ball, shoot the 3, and he's 7 foot. He's got a ticket to the NBA waiting for him.
I think so. I think he's got the skill set that they like. There's not many guys that size that have the floor vision that Danny does. His ability to pass with either hand off the bounce. You got to respect his shooting ability. And then a couple times he just played bully ball. He just put his shoulder into Brandon Angel or Nate Biddle's chest and got right to the rim. So he and Vlad Golden, those two up front, man, they're a problem.
And Vladimir, he's not as prolific a shooter as Wolf is, but he can and will step out there and shoot and take that shot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he will. And he's 75% free throw shooter. I believe he's hit 25 or 26 threes on the season. Very, very skilled. And the thing that I'm really most impressed with, Jim, I covered Florida Atlantic in their conference tournament championships when Dusty May was still the coach and Vlad was still at FAU. And he wasn't this demonstrative, like the growling, the show of expression after a dunk or something. He didn't do that before he got to Michigan. And so I think they've really elevated his game. And, the combination of their front court and what Trey Donaldson is doing in the backcourt, Michigan is they seem to be playing some of their best basketball of the season.
Well, they're playing Big Ten basketball now. You can tell that you mentioned elevated. They have elevated their game because the talent is elevated every night. You're playing teams that right down to the bottom that can beat you, because we've seen it. Every team in the Big Ten, save for Indiana, has a solid win over a team that will play in the NCAA tournament. And I mean, it doesn't matter if we're talking about Washington or Northwestern or Minnesota. Every one of those, Minnesota's beaten Michigan. So
yes,
it can happen. And it's just how it goes. But yeah, Michigan, man, they're fun to watch. But that seems to be the way to go. We've seen Illinois, while they're just a little young, they've been fun to watch with Kasper Jokichanis and Evasic. They're the same thing, man. They got Evasic. He steps out there and just knocks it down on you, and the big guy. So that is the way to go. Indiana, unfortunately, had that with Kellel Ware last year. They don't have that this year. They're not going to be able to play with those kinds of teams in that style.
Yeah, and if you look at the Hoosiers, and let's take a look at like Michigan coming in to Simon Scott Assembly Hall. If you go back and look at what Minnesota did to upset Michigan, you have to force turnovers on the Wolverines. That's their Achilles heel. They get very loose with the basketball. So if you can force turnovers, you can get to them a little bit. Also, dribble penetration. If you can get downhill, something that Miles Rice can do. If you can get downhill, you can put a little bit of pressure on them, right? Now, Vlad Golden is great at the rim in terms of rim protection. But Umar Ballo can put pressure on him, maybe get him into foul trouble, because that's something that Vlad Golden has done. He can pick up 2 fouls pretty quickly. So I do see some areas where Indiana can attack, but it's a small margin of error because Indiana, has had their struggles as well. But when you're trying to attack a team like Michigan, you got to be hitting on all your cylinders, and you got to attack them where they're most vulnerable. And can Indiana do that? That remains to be seen.
Yeah, and Indiana's running out of chances to get the kind of quality wins they need. Unbelievably, they're not on in many brackets right now, but they're not that far off. Had they been able to get that win over Maryland, a win over Purdue, that would have changed their fortunes. Luckily, they still do have a couple of opportunities. This game is one of them. You've got Michigan State coming up after that, Purdue again. So they have a few more opportunities left, but they are quickly running out of those types of chances.
Yeah, they are. And it's going to be similar to a lot of teams that are bunched up in that area. Rutgers got a big one last night against Illinois. Nebraska's starting to come back around where they had been slumping. So you're looking at teams in that area where are they in? Are they out? Are they on the bubble? And so who is a team that can string some of those wins together? Obviously Indiana has shown that they can do it. The way that they played against Purdue, they showed the toughness. They showed the heart. I know that Mike Woodson has questioned his team's ability to play hard at all times. I think they've shown that. The consistency piece is what's eluded them. So the Hoosiers have some great opportunities coming up. But like you said, I would say this, but I'd be messing up my FCC ruling. But, there's certain old school sayings, but it's time to either do something or go home.
Yeah,
Show up or go home.
Yeah, exactly. You are as correct as can be. The standings in the Big Ten tournament, or Big Ten rather, I would have thought that their Big Ten would have had a few more teams that were probably going to make the Big Ten this year, or the NCAA. But it's becoming more top loaded as we get through the season. I noted earlier in the show that you only have to go to the 8th place team to find Ohio State with a losing record in the conference, which that's a little higher than I would have thought it would have been, but it is what it is. And I don't know how much that's going to change. Big Ten is probably not going to get a ton of teams in the NCAA tournament this year, but the ones they do get in are all going to be problematic for their opponents.
Oh, I don't doubt. I have no doubt that you're exactly right, Jim, because as I pull up the standings, Braden Smith is playing like the best point guard in the country. Michigan State may have the best team approach of any team in the Big Ten in terms of how deep they go and how many players they play and their assist rate, their usage rate for their players. We just talked about Michigan. UCLA now has won 6 in a row. And Tom Izzo said that was the most physical game that Michigan State has played in a while, like in the last couple of years. So now you've got Mick Cronin, whatever he did, he's got his guys playing, and they play a physical, slower style pace. Wisconsin will hit you with threes. They'll drop 100 on your head. Maryland will bang you with their two bigs. Yeah, Maryland will bang you with their 2 bigs up front, and you don't know what Illinois team you're going to get. You know, that Illinois might be the scariest team in that group in that they're so unpredictable. They can beat anybody, but they can lose to anybody as well. So you're right, Jim. The teams that will actually get into the tournament from the Big Ten, they might have more of an opportunity to throw monkey wrenches in the seedings that we'll see with Big Ten teams in the tournament.
Yeah, Oregon, who is a strong team, they just kind of keep falling, but they're a very good team.
They are.
And they'll probably make – I mean, they're going to make the NCAA tournament, I would think. But
yes.
Do they make it even with a losing Big Ten record?
I think so, because their non-conference wins are some of the best in the country. Yeah. You know, when they won that Players Era tournament, they went through Alabama, Texas A&M, and I believe San Diego State is who else was the third team that they beat. And so those are quality wins. And then I'm because all these games start to run together in February, Jim. But they've got another good quality win in the non-conference, and you know they've got decent wins in the Big Ten as well. So Oregon's a team that's going to be dangerous once they get outside of league play. So you're right. The conference, it may not be as strong top to bottom as the SEC this season, because I think the SEC is clearly the best conference in the country. But in terms of competitive balance, top to bottom, Big 12, SEC, Big East, they can't touch the Big 10 this year.
Oh, no doubt. I agree with that. Let's see. Oh, USC. Talk about a team on the rise, man. They looked like roadkill early in the season, but they are now a phoenix. They have risen from the ashes, and they got that huge win at Illinois. Of course, they were without, I think was Kasparas Jokichanis, but didn't play. Maybe that's not having your best player. But all that aside, USC has done some things. They just beat Michigan State.
Yeah, they did. And it took a Nick Martinelli floater for them to lose to Northwestern. So if you take that in consideration, UCLA beat them by 6, but then they won at Nebraska. That's not easy. Everybody in Big Ten knows how hard it is to go out to Lincoln and come away with a victory. So they were able to do that. So they're a talented squad. They're capable. And it took a while for Eric Musselman to figure out the rotation that he wanted to play. And so they play a little bit smaller, but it's more difficult for teams to match up with them when they do go smaller. So USC, another team that they probably not going. They will probably not get into the tournament, but coming down the stretch, they may ruin some other teams' chances just by the way that they're playing.
And they might end up sneaking in if they can continue. If they can pick up a few more wins like they have, they may surprise some of us. Who knows? But it'll be interesting to see, no doubt. Looking forward to that. Ohio State, they have really just looked lukewarm. They see Nebraska has been up and down. Man, they're up and then they're down. They're probably the most roller coaster team so far of the conference season that has a legit shot of still doing something.
I agree. And, there was a few games back that Kevin Kugler, my dear friend, and me were calling, and he looked lifeless. When Nebraska got blasted at Wisconsin, that was a game we did. They lost 83-55, and Bryce Williams looked like he either had something personally going on or he was sick. But then, he comes back the following game against Illinois. He woke up in the second half, and he's been maybe the best player in the conference in the last week and a half. So he and Jawan Gary are really carrying that team, and they're starting to get a few more contributions. Connor Essegian has done well coming off the bench. Raleigh Wooster is a veteran guard who can, kind of old school. So Fred Hoiberg is starting to put it together, finding the rhythm that his team needs, and they're playing a lot better basketball right now.
And UCLA, you mentioned you don't know what Mick Cronin did or said, but boy, he was having hell. He was either dog cussing his players, dog cussing himself, dog cussing the officials, and then all of a sudden it got right. And UCLA has just been they've rebounded. They're 17-6 overall, 8-4 in the conference. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th. They're tied for 4th and 5th. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's probably 5 teams I think legitimately will have a shot at winning the Big Ten tournament this year in the Big Ten. Not that there couldn't be more, but Purdue, Michigan State, Michigan, Wisconsin, UCLA. I think those are the 5 teams that could legitimately lay claim to the title.
I would throw Illinois in there as well, just because
Illinois. I love them. I think that you mentioned it earlier. You just don't know what you're going to get, and I think it's just because of the youth of Kasparas Jokic, but he has been. Oh my God! When they came to Bloomington, watching him was, he was something. That dude is juice. He's like butter, man. He is fun. It seems like, daggone it. Evasic, am I saying his right name?
Evasic.
He seems to not injury prone, but he seems like he goes down at the inopportune moments for them and comes back. But he's another one, man. Golly, that dude can stroke it from outside.
Well, I think Tomislav Evasic is Illinois' most important player. I know Yakachonis is their best player, but their most important player is Tomislav Evasic. And the fact that he's back from mono so quickly is amazing, because I had mononucleosis as a kid, and that wipes you out. I mean, it is very difficult to come back from. I thought he's going to be out at least a month. And the fact that he's back playing right now shows how tough the kid is, one, and two, how important he is to what Illinois is doing. A guy that can space the floor, he can shoot the three, he's a great rebounder. He might be their best passer. And that's no knock on Yakachonis or Kylan Boswell, those guys, but Evasic is a special talent. And when he's healthy and playing and in rhythm, Illinois can beat anybody in the country. I think, they showed that when Tennessee was number 1 and Tennessee came over to State Farm Center and needed a Jordan Gainey last-second layup to win. I think that put a message out to everybody in the country. And Illinois is going to have Duke here in a couple weeks at Madison Square Garden, a great game to get this late in the season to see where you are right before the tournament. So we'll get a good glimpse of where Illinois is going to be.
How did that game come about? Because very rarely does a Big Ten team schedule a game like this time of year.
I think what happens is you have to have a willing partner on the other side. And John Shire and his staff recognize that Illinois is going to be a really good team. Everybody's scouting overseas players now. So when you get 2 as talented as Illinois got in Evasic and Yakachonis, people took notice. And so I think John Shire understand that the ACC was going to be down this season and that he needed a really competitive game that late in February before you go into conference tournaments and then go into the NCAA tournament. I think that's how they got it done. And so it's a great get for Illinois. It's a great get for Duke because Duke hasn't really been challenged that much in the ACC this year. So that's going to be a fascinating matchup that will give us a glimpse of what Illinois could possibly do come NCAA tournament time.
Yeah, and what a boost that would be to Illinois and their resume. Not that they need it; they're solidly in everything. But wow, that would be a boost. That could be a seed boost.
Yes, there's no doubt about it. If Illinois can beat Duke in their second home court, which is Madison Square Garden, I mean, just not only from a confidence standpoint, Jim, but a national narrative standpoint. You beat Duke in late February, you go, I don't care what you do in the Big Ten Conference Tournament. You can lose the first round. But nationally, people will start to really say, look, this Illinois team is a team that we need to watch. Because if they can handle Duke like this, they can handle anybody in the country. Because to me, Jim, the two best teams in the country are clearly Auburn and Duke.
Oh, yeah, and it's especially for the 7th place Big Ten team to do something like that. That would be a little feather in the Big Ten's cap.
I agree.
Not that it really matters because that will all play out in March when we get going, and I can't wait to see how that goes. It was having UCLA and these West Coast teams in the conference. It's been fun this year to see about the traveling. And speaking of traveling, notice that Michigan State just did their West Coast trip to LA and lost both of those games out there. I'm sure that was not fun for Tom Izzo.
No, and I hope that your viewers and Big Ten basketball fans didn't think that Michigan State was going to go unscathed.
Yeah, no.
I mean, they're a good team, but is anyone really scared of Michigan State? I'm being dead serious, Jim.
No, because they had their toughest part of their schedule is yet to come. I think
exactly, and there's no shade to Michigan State. I'm not throwing shade on it. I got tremendous respect for Tom Izzo and what they're doing this year. I think it's one of the better stories in college basketball, actually. But when it comes down to the last 2 minutes of the game, where are they going to go with the basketball? Jay Nakes is a good player, but he's not a closer. Frankie Fiddler is a good basketball player, but he's not a closer. And so that's my biggest question for them. And I think they got humbled a little bit when they went out to Los Angeles and UCLA and USC put back-to-back losses on them. They'll be better for it as a team, but I don't know that Michigan State really scares Michigan or Purdue, or we just saw what UCLA did to them. So I think they're good, but Michigan State would not be one of the teams that I would pick to see in the second weekend of the NCAA tournament.
Ooh, there you go. Is that because of how they're built? Because we talk about teams like Michigan and Illinois and Wisconsin who have this structure with these two bigs that can also shoot, and they have good support staff. That seems that's modern basketball now. And if you're successful with that, as these teams have been, they're hard outs. Unless you beat yourself, turn the ball over or do some things that you shouldn't do. Other than that, these teams are going to be hard outs.
Oh, they're going to be hard outs. And if we're talking about Michigan State specifically, here's a formula for me to have success in the NCAA tournament. You have to have elite guard play. They've got that. Jeremy Fears has been outstanding this season in terms of being that type of pass-first point guard that Tom Izzo wants. So check that box. Do you have future pros on your team? Do you have future NBA players on your team? That's a question mark. I don't necessarily see a bona fide NBA player on that Spartan roster. I just don't. So that's a question mark for me. Also, do you have a guy that can bring you home? Do you have a Braden Smith? Do you have a guy like Danny Wolf? Do you have a player even like Dawson Garcia, a guy that you can give the ball to and they can create for you when everything breaks down? Because we know in the NCAA tournament, these teams are so good, they're so well scouted that can you run your stuff for 40 minutes? Probably not. But at some point, you got to have a guy, you got to have a dude that can bring you home. Does Michigan State have a dude that can bring them home? The jury's still out on that for me. And that's why why I'm taking the approach towards Michigan State in terms of having a deep run in the NCAA tournament. I just have a few question marks.
Well, and that's great that you bring that up, because that kind of leads me back to Indiana. They don't have that. And boy, was that ever more apparent than it was in the Maryland, at the end of the Maryland and at the end of the Purdue games, when there was confusion, there was just all kinds of things going on. The team did not have a plan. Nothing worked right, and no one kind of seemed to know exactly what they should do or what would be the best route, whether at the end of either game. And both of those games were very winnable. Doesn't mean they would have won them, but you would sure like to have had a shot at it. And they did not give themselves a chance to do that, really, with what they did. And I don't know. I mean, I've guessed all year long at this, and I know that you're in a different position. It's harder for you, but they just don't seem like they're prepared to make those decisions when that crunch time comes, because when it has, they haven't. And it's just, there doesn't seem to be leadership and all of that. There's actually seems to be factions, and they seem to be fractured. The end of the game with Bardo and Miles Rice against Purdue. I love the intensity. I love the will and the want to win, but you also have to have, a little class about you and all that. But they've got to get themselves together, because there's no way you can win when you've got all of that other crap going on, as I'll call it.
Yeah, they have to get on the same page. And I think what I want to really address Hoosier fans here, and hear me out, Hoosier fans. That transfer portal is a tricky situation, because you're getting players that are coming in that have had success in other programs. And so to get guys to understand a different program, to go through the gauntlet of the Big Ten for the first time, to have success in pressurized situations, the good teams that have transfers that come in and do it, they're exceptional. That's an exception. That's not the rule. The rule is that teams struggle. So Indiana is kind of what the rule is when you're bringing in dynamic transfers like Umar Bardo, like Miles Rice, like Kanan Carlisle, who to me has been extremely disappointing. I really thought Kanan Carlisle was going to be a major, major factor for the Hoosiers, and he is not. I don't know if it's a mental thing. I don't know if it's a confidence thing, but I saw him in the preseason when I came down to Bloomington to watch practice, and he was the best player in the gym. I walked away very impressed. But there's a saying, Jim, that when you have players like that look great in practice, they're going against guys that they know. But now you get in the game and you're going against guys you don't know. You got different environments, different things. He hasn't been able to put it together. And so I want Hoosier fans to understand that when you see a team that has a bunch of transfers like Louisville, right, and what Pat Kelsey is doing at Louisville, that's the exception. That's not the rule. It's very difficult to get guys who have aspirations to possibly play at the next level to come from a different program and lock into what you're doing and get paid 6 figures while they're doing it, right? Some get paid 7 figures while they're doing it. That's a different mix. It's a different day in college basketball, and we're still in the experimental stage with all that. You understand what I'm saying, Jim? So the UConns, the Louisvilles, the very few teams that have been able to pull these guys together and get them on the same path, that's exceptional. Okay, so Indiana sitting here right now has had some disappointing losses. I know the fans are really hot about Woodson. They don't think Woodson fits the mold. But what I'm telling you is that this is not an unusual situation that Indiana's going through. They still have a chance to make the NCAA tournament. They still have a chance to turn their season around. And all it takes is one game for them to win one of those quad one victories that boost their resume, boost their confidence, and get going.
Oh, there's no doubt that's the ironic thing is they still have a shot. Part of it is because of the opportunities that lie ahead of them.
That's right.
And it is the fans they've kind of, I think that they've jumped the shark. That's I don't think that there will be a question really that at the end of the season a change comes to Indiana. And that's going to be a different scenario. But the oddity is, I can't recall a time where this scenario that is playing out right now with Dusty May coming to Bloomington on Saturday, and he is one of the two names that are on every Indiana fan's minds or lips right now to be in Bloomington next season. And that's just an oddity in itself. It's going to create an odd environment because I expect Dusty to get a standing ovation, much like Mike Woodson got at Mackey. And Mike will probably get booed on Saturday. So it's going to be a unique situation. It's kind of awkward for Dusty May, if you want to know the truth about it. It's probably most awkward for him than anybody else in the building.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Andy Katz had a chance to interview Dusty after the game last night, and Andy does something that I don't particularly care for, Jim, but it's all everybody in his business does. This guy just beat Oregon. Like, they had a tough game. These coaches don't think ahead like that. No. They're not he's not sitting there. He just racked his brain to beat Oregon, and now he's thinking about Bloomington and what it's going to be like coming back into Simon Scott Assembly Hall. These coaches don't think that way. They just don't. But he gave a politically correct answer. Now, when we were at shoot around talking to him, and he says it's going to be interesting. You know, he said, those are my formative years. He said, I love that place. But I want to caution Hoosiers fans, Jim. This is not going to be a popular comment. I don't see Dusty May leaving Michigan. I don't.
It's very possible. The only reason that I even put his name in a conversation is for one reason. His buyout is unbelievably low for any first-year P4 coach that you look at, and that had to be negotiated to be that. It currently is at $5 million, drops to $4 million May 1st, but for a first-year P4 coach, it's crazy to have a buyout that low, and that's the only reason when people would bring it up. Otherwise, I would have said he's off the table. It's not Indiana missed the boat on the opportunity to get him, but now I have to wonder, why was that negotiated in? It had to be negotiated in with purpose. Not that I'm saying that he would. That things still could have changed since that negotiation took place. He may just, you know what? I love it here. I think I can build something here with less pressure than would be at Indiana because I'm from there. My family lives there. There's a lot of different things that go into it. Trust me, I know. You also have another coach that, as Bob Kravitz said earlier, would crawl over broken glass to get to Bloomington, and Chris Beard. I know he would love to get that job. But Dusty's at Michigan. Chris is at Ole Miss. Big difference in jobs in that regard as well. So it is going to be interesting. The good thing for Indiana fans is I think that no matter what happens, they're going to be in good shape. And Indiana is going to be a program that can always rise from the ashes like a phoenix when given the opportunity, and it should. I think it's better for college basketball when a program like Indiana is good, when a Kansas is good, when Duke is good, when North Carolina is good. I mean, you don't want them to be the only teams, I get it, but it's also good for them to be good because they're still going to get beat, and people get to revel in beating great programs like that.
Oh, that's a good point, and I like where you're going with that. And here's the thing. Indiana can rise like a phoenix with Mike Woodson still in the helm as well. So don't rule that out. We've seen this before. Was it Kerry Keats, the head coach at North Carolina State? I think he was on a really hot seat last year, and they got to the Final Four. And now they're not doing so well this year. They're 2-9 in the ACC, so they're not doing great. But Mike could turn this thing around. And I think you guys remember what Luke Goody said early in the season. He got mad at the media, and he got mad at the fans. He said, look, don't jump on the bandwagon when we turn this thing around. I've seen this time and time again where coaches are on the hot seat, and it takes one game, something clicks, the guys come together, and they have a magical run. It can happen. And so I don't want people to think it's a foregone conclusion that Mike Woodson is going to be gone after this season. That's not the case. I wouldn't put a whole lot of stock into that.
Well, they
That's all I'm
certainly
saying.
still have plenty of games left to get
Yes.
that done. 12 games played. That means you still have 8 remaining, just under half of the Big Ten season remaining. Who's going to win? Can anybody stop Purdue from winning the Big Ten title? Are they going to win 3 straight again?
I tell you what, if you can't figure out a way to control Braden Smith, then no, you're not going to beat Purdue. It's as simple as that. He is so good. I mean, I cherish the opportunities to call his game live. That's how highly I think of him. I remember, Jim, when he and Fletcher Lawyer were freshmen, and I was doing some Northwestern game, and the producer wanted me to put my all freshman team up, and I put Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith up. And people, they killed me on Twitter. And I said, look, the first time I saw Braden Smith play in the pre-season down at Purdue in a scrimmage, he jumped off the page to me. The kid can play. I think he can play in the NBA. That's how highly I think of his game. So if anybody in the Big Ten is going to beat Purdue and you can't make life difficult like Penn State and Ace Baldwin Jr. did early in the Big Ten slate, then yes, Purdue will win 3 straight, because if he gets in a rhythm like he did the other night at Iowa, you can't beat him.
Absolutely. Do you have the game Saturday by chance?
I have Rutgers at Maryland on Sunday, which is turned out to now be a really big game.
Oh, absolutely. I figured it's either going to be you or Robbie that has the game on Saturday, because it's been one. And I'm like, all right, whichever one of you, somebody's going to have to start paying rent. I think that Robbie should have to pay rent at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. I have seen him there a ton this year. It's which is great. I love seeing either one of you guys. But do you have any Indiana games left this year that you know of yet?
I don't think so. As of right now, I'm pulling my schedule up, and I don't have any Indiana left. So. Man. Yeah, I know, because I love going down there and calling games, but yeah, I don't have any right now in the regular season on my schedule.
Would you be coming to Indy?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll see you in Indy then.
Oh yeah. I'll be there. Hey, I love Indy's the best sports city in the country.
Love it.
I think the Big Ten tournament needs to be there every year.
Yeah, we are in agreement, brother. We are in agreement. Can't wait to see you there and buy you a beverage.
That sounds good, Jim. Always a pleasure being with you, my man.
Man, it is always a pleasure to have you. The people love you, and with good reason. Stephen Bardo. And don't forget Bardo's Tribe, bardostribe.com, right?
That's right. Thank you.
He is the original Big Ten OG. Thanks, man. I appreciate you.
All right, Jim. Take care, my man.
Stephen Bardo joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Thursday. To wrap things up, always a blast talking to him. Love Steven. He's a great guy, great dude, and glad to have him part of the friends of the Indiana Sports Beat Radio Network. And looking forward to doing this again tomorrow. That means Todd Leary will be with us, amongst others. We'll see what else we can get going. I know that Zach will be with us as well. So we'll get you caught up on everything and ready for the weekend. Thank you so much for being with us today. As always, we appreciate you. Without you, we have no reason to be here other than that. Join us tomorrow. Make sure you hit the like button if you're following on YouTube, and we'll do this all again. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
Hello, sports fans. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you for stopping by our YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the subscribe and notifications toggle so you never miss a thing. All of our content up here every day. Looking forward to it. Thank you, and we'll see you on the radio.